friends, and welcome back to Ghouls Night In, the spooky chat show with your best ghoul friends. I'm Penny Snark,
And I'm Midge Munster.
and we were just saying it's been a long time since we did just a chit chat episode, kind of caught y'all up on things, and we were thinking it would be fun to do a little behind the screams, as Midge
Yes.
Midge put it. I'll give you credit for that one.
To coin a phrase.
To
No.
coin a phrase. Yeah, so we did put out a little question box on our Instagram. So if you would like to be included in things like this in the future, you can find us at Ghouls Night in Pod over there. But we have a few questions, and we're going to tell you a little bit of the secrets of the guts that go into making this here podcast.
Yes, I took a little peek at the questions beforehand, and I think it'll be interesting to see how much guts we have really to spill.
You ask yourself, and I've got a little behind the scenes treat to share.
Oh, good, good, good.
So the first question that I will pose to both of us is, how did you meet?
Oh, well, I wish I remembered fully. We've talked about, together, we've talked about this several times, trying to figure out exactly what it was that,
Yeah,
who found who first, or what was the first interaction. But we met through Instagram.
yeah. We met through vintage fashion Instagram,
Yep.
really. Before either of us went deeply spooky, we were just cool ladies wearing vintage clothes. We connected on Instagram, became friends, and here we are today. I mean, just another example of the great things that can happen being a weirdo on Instagram.
Even though we were in the vintage fashion space, though, I think we initially did kind of connect over our mutual spooky love of things. Our
Yes.
first real Instagram collaboration that we did was a Beetlejuice related photo series, which I believe we've reposted to the podcast Instagram before when we did our Beetlejuice episode.
Yes.
Um, but we've always kind of, I think, seen that in each other even before we were both all in on this
Yes,
side of the
we
content
could
spectrum.
sense it. We were
Yeah.
drawn in by each other's spooky vibes.
Yes.
Little background on us. But yeah, and then we got a couple of questions about how we decide what topics to do, and then kind of how do you research an episode for the pod.
Hmm. Do you want to start? I mean, I guess
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're probably pretty similar. I mean, I think we both get
I
a
feel
lot
like you take a more scholarly approach, probably.
maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I do have like a running list of topics that I consider, but honestly, more often than not, I pick something completely random that's not from my list.
Yeah, the number
Uh,
of times my list has been slighted at this point.
yes,
I
that was
always go to
my
the list and peruse it and then none of these right now. And then I wait until someone sends me a weird TikTok about something and then I'm like,
right.
ooh.
Yeah, one of the kind of add-on questions was, do any get perennially demoted? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Literally everything on my list is perennially demoted because I don't know, oftentimes I'll just be kind of struck by something, either
Mhm.
a TikTok or something someone else posted, or I'll be watching often an unrelated movie or something, and it'll spark something in me. I definitely really like to go back to things that I was interested in as a young weirdo and kind of pull them to the future, kind of take a modern look at it. And as far as researching, you do a goog. I usually try and read a couple of articles, go through, I mean, obviously you go through the Wikipedia page to get kind of a summary of what's going on. If it's like a deeper thing, like sometimes I have read a book about a topic, or will watch a documentary if it's if that kind of sparked my interest in it. But otherwise just kind of try and suck up thoughts from around the internet.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think definitely what Penny said, things that kind of come into our that's the nice thing about being on the like, kind of a chronically online person in this
Mhm.
age is that the algorithm is constantly feeding you kind of things that might interest you, and when your interests are weird, you end up with a lot of fun, weird things to talk about.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, something that comes to mind for me is just, like, getting ideas from traveling, like, when we
Mhm.
did, one of my favorite episodes I ever did was the Phantasmagoria episode, and that came
Yes.
from going to a museum with you in
Yeah.
LA. Otherwise, I probably would have not come to the table with that topic. Um, so there's inspiration all around, which is exciting, and we do have, and I still have access to it. We have a Google Sheets page. This is what, year 3 of the podcast?
Mhm.
Penny made a spreadsheet when we were talking about doing a podcast that had probably, I'd say, close to 50 topics or so listed out. And of those, I think we've done maybe 10 of them.
Yeah, we keep going in different directions.
Yeah, so we definitely have things that, and then we both keep our own lists. I have at least 2 topics that have been on there since the inception of this podcast that I've never touched. Um,
Mhm.
but that's good. I mean,
Yeah,
there
I feel
there's always more topics, which is great. That's what's made us able to do this as a weekly podcast, which is awesome.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like sometimes the and we both take inspiration from, like, the world as, like,
Mhm.
if it's, like, a season or there's
Yeah,
holidays, things like that, like, we aren't strictly, like, seasonal, but if there is something coming up, one of us often takes inspiration from it, and that does kind of go into, the next question, which was, "Has the other ghoul ever chosen a topic you were planning on doing?"
not yet.
So, yeah, so we have never had the same thing. There have been times that you've brought a topic that I have considered doing
Sure.
as a topic,
Yeah.
but thankfully so there have been days where we get in to record and we're both like, what did you
What did you do?
what kind of thing are you talking about? Because and we try not to tell each other beforehand, so I'll kind of be like, it's a movie or it's a person,
It's
and then you're like,
media.
oh,
Yeah.
phew.
Well, and it's funny because, like, there was no point at which we decided, "Hey, we're gonna surprise each other with
No.
topics." That was never like, "Hey, the format of this podcast is gonna be one of us picks a topic and the other one doesn't know what it is."
No.
But at some point, we adopted that permanently.
Yep. Yep.
Because now we do go out of our way not to tell each other, I think.
Yeah, because
Um,
the very first episodes we had planned, obviously. So like
yeah, because we picked from that original list you
yeah, because we
did.
picked from the original list and you came up to Milwaukee to record the first set of episodes. And so like we knew that it's like, all right, we're gonna be doing Ouija boards, we're gonna do bats, we're gonna do Haunted Mansion, and Jack-o'-lanterns, I think, were the
Well, the
episodes
first 2
we
episodes we ever recorded, we did virtually.
Oh yeah, we did do those virtually.
Pumpkin Chunkin'
Pumpkin
and
Chunkin'
Wah
and
Me on My Waluigi
Ouija
board.
board. Yes, yes,
Our
those
first
were
2 episodes, were recorded, but we did pick those topics together, I think, we
mhm.
knew. And then, yeah, the 4 that we did live in Milwaukee, we planned because we also filmed those for my YouTube channel, and we
Mhm.
planned outfits around the
Yes.
themes. Um, but yeah, then at some point, I don't know. But I mean, when Penny originally brought me the idea for this podcast and was like, "Do you want to do this with me?" The whole reason that you asked me to join on was because you wanted it to be a chat show
Yeah.
and not just you reading facts on a microphone. Which, to be fair, I would still listen to.
Oh,
But
thank you.
I think the surprise element allows for natural flow of conversation
Mhm.
because we are both hyper like overthinkers and overplanners, and so I think if we knew what the other person was going to talk about, we would maybe like over or edit ourselves into
Yeah.
talking points, and then it wouldn't feel as natural or like fun, is my
Yeah.
opinion.
I agree. I like not knowing.
Yeah.
But
Plus then we get to, like, one of us gets to learn along with the audience, which is really fun too, usually.
yeah,
Um,
and I always really enjoy too that, like, even if it's a topic that I do know something about, like, I don't know,
yeah.
like, what facets of it you're gonna talk about or kinda, like, how you're gonna structure, like, the
Mhm.
conversation. So I always enjoy that. It keeps things fun and exciting. But
Yes.
there have definitely been moments of anxiety where we're like, "Did we
Oh,
both
did
bring the
we?
same thing?"
The only topic I can think off the top of my head that I know that when you brought it, my brain was like, "Ah," was Crimson Peak,
Oh, yep.
because that had been on my list for a long time, but, it is fun because I would say 90% of the time, you bring something I'm not terribly familiar with, or
Mm.
that I have, like, a really base general knowledge of. So, it's it's fun when you brought, like, Crimson Peak, and I was like, "Oh, I can actually, like, play in this
Yeah.
conversation because I know Crimson Peak." Those few and far between episodes are fun then when we feel like we're kinda, like, in on the inside
Totally.
with the other person, but, I love both, though. I love learning in the moment, and I love when we get to have, like, a chattier episode about something we're both passionate about.
Yeah, I agree. Um, we had one question about how we organize to record. I, I'm kind of like I don't know what all that involves. For me, just if people are interested, I have a Notion pushes glasses up nose, is kind of what I use to run my whole life. I do my work and all of my personal to-dos. I have my D&D campaign in here, but I also have my ghouls, thing, so I have, like, a little database where I have ideas, I have things that are in process of being prepped, and that is where I'll, like, open up just, like, a fresh page and kinda take notes, and I semi like, some things I write out, like, if there's something specific I wanna say. A lot of the times I just put in, like, bullet points of kinda things, or I'll put in, like, a quote from somewhere that I wanna talk about, and, then I take my laptop up to the attic, to the podcast
The
lounge.
podcasting
I
lounge.
plug in. I hope there's not any crazy noises happening. I open up this recording and send Midge the link, and we are in it. We're good to go.
Usually, except for the last
Yes,
couple times.
except for when there are technical difficulties. But other than that,
Yeah, that's actually something I've almost that sounds silly, be like, "I've always wanted to ask you that." Like, we talk all the time, but
yeah.
I figured by the way, A, that your brain works, and B, the way you flow through your episodes, that you're more of a bullet pointer,
Hmm.
whereas, like, I'm basically writing a book report every 2 weeks, because my brain does not hold on to things well. So I'm more or less getting in a Google Doc and writing out the full episode from top
Hmm.
to bottom, including like where I am putting breaks to either ask Penny things or give her space to talk or
Sure.
like
I definitely also do that where I'll put in like, what does Mitch think? Question mark or like
yeah.
Mitch
Yes,
Mitch
because it's
thoughts.
easy. Yeah, it's easy to get going and then like not realize, oh, Penny hasn't talked in 20 minutes. Like um, but it's interesting, at least for me. Now, this is where I'm like, I'm curious to hear what your.
Mm.
I've come to find, obviously, our episodes are usually about 25 to 30
Mhm.
minutes. I've come to find for me, that's about like three and a half full written pages of 11-point font is like about the right time
Yeah.
frame. So when you're bullet pointing, then do you just like, are you just going like, I'm gonna talk about this for about 5 minutes, and that's where like how do you time that with just bullet points?
That's a good question. And in fact, one of the questions we got was how do you make sure the episodes aren't too long? And
I very rarely have an issue with it being too long. I'm
yeah,
always like, "Oh god, is this gonna make at least 25
right.
minutes of content?"
Yeah, I don't know. I have always been like a fairly extemporaneous speaker. Like when I have to like present at work and stuff, I don't practice. Like it stresses me out more to like try and like go through it. I just am like, here's the info. that I have, and I'm going to deliver it, and we're going to make it work. It's kind of how I go about things.
And
Uh,
here you see a Leo and a Virgo in their natural habitats.
but yeah, so I have kind of like a vague sense of like usually this many kind of like segments. I sort of think of it in like segments where I'm like, all right, I'm going
Mm.
to talk about like the history of the book. I'm going to talk about like literary analysis. I'm going to talk about this. And so it does get I do sometimes like reach the end and I'm like, holy shit, I don't know. Some of you, since this is a behind the scenes
I
episode,
was gonna bring it up.
I would say some of you may notice at the end of an episode, I'll just be like, "So here's a question, or here's a random story," and that's when I've been like, "Oh shit, we've only been talking for like 15 minutes, and I'm running out of notes."
I thought you were gonna talk about this is a fun behind the scenes of last week's episode.
Mm.
Um, so our we for a long time recorded with one platform and
Hmm.
then they like upped the subscription fee or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But we were like, or it was like we weren't gonna have enough storage space in
Hmm.
the thing to record every week. So we were like, okay, we're not gonna use that anymore. And we switched. And since we switched, the parameters of the platform are a little bit different.
Hmm.
And one of the unique things about it is that if you click away, like for when I'm reading out of my Google Doc, if you click away, it stops counting the time on the screen, or at least it does on my end.
It's only on your end, I think.
Super
So.
cool because I'm the guest,
Fun
maybe
fact,
technically.
yeah, I host the
Yeah,
the podcast
this is
stream.
actually just featuring Midge Munster.
Yes,
It's yeah, it's still actually Snarkcast.
yes.
Um, but yeah, so it stops counting. So last week I had prepped my normal amount for the Tilly episode, and I was feeling very confident and like I was like, this is such a well researched, like well timed episode. Wow, go me. And then I got to the end of my information and I clicked over and it said that we had been recording for 8 minutes. Which if I were a smart person, I would have realized like we started recording at 4. It is now 4:30. Like my
That's
brain
about
would have
right.
been
Yep.
like, "Oh, you're fine." But instead, I panicked and you can hear the exact moment where I start just like spewing out other facts that I didn't include in the episode because I thought that we were way under time. Um, so that's fun. we
Fun and
we don't
exciting.
we don't
Yeah,
always
yeah. You
know
just
what's going to happen with the time.
you never do know. But we get kind of we've got an idea of it, and we're also
Well, and
not
now it's
like
almost like muscle memory in a
yes.
way. Like we've been doing it for a few couple years now. Like it
Hmm.
gets to a point where we're like, yeah, that feels like about right.
Yeah, and obviously we're not super picky about the time. Like
No,
we
no.
have a general thing that we're going for, but on extra exciting episodes, on chatty episodes, like we'll go over, and it's not a big deal. So we're not like, okay, if it's 25 minutes
Right.
30 seconds, that's too long, cut it.
I will say that is why we kind of do our topics in the way that we do. Like when Penny talked in the Jekyll and Hyde episode about doing like the whole Jekyll and Hyde versus just doing the Jekyll and Hyde musical, or
Hmm.
like, rather than doing like all of Guillermo del Toro's work, we did just Crimson Peak. Like
Yep.
we try to hit this specific niche where it's not too niche, where there's not enough information, but it's not so broad that we could talk about it for 2 hours.
Yes, yeah,
And
and
that
I
usually kind of hits the sweet spot for about a 30-minute episode.
for sure. And there are definitely I don't remember if we've talked about this on the show, like we've talked about this off mic, but there are like some episodes from like the early days that I'd kind of like to do like a part
Revisit a
2,
part
like
two.
a
Yep.
revisit version, because we did not yet know how much stuff you could cover in an episode, and I'm
Hmm.
like, "Oh, we really could have like dived deeper into some of these." So,
Definitely.
uh
That being
look out for
said,
that. Maybe you'll see
yeah,
it
or
sometime.
if there's any episodes that, you really loved in the past that you'd love to, like, get a revisit, always
Mhm.
let us know because, sometimes things leave our field of vision once we've hit a topic,
Yes.
I go back all the time, I'm like, "We did that? Wow."
Yes. Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
so let us know if there's something you'd love to revisit, and we'll try to make it happen for you.
Yeah. Some other during recording questions. I like this one. Was how often do we trail off during an episode?
not as bad as you would think,
Yeah,
truly.
not too bad. I think because we are, like, talking to each other, like,
Mhm.
it keeps us both engaged, although there definitely have been times that, like, I'm already thinking about the next thing I'm gonna say, and then you say something that I'm not expecting, and my brain has to, like,
Yeah.
completely, like, shift rails on that.
I also will say that because we don't plan the conversation between us, there are moments where I've noticed, like, either you or I will leave a pause for the other to speak, and the
Yes.
other doesn't have anything to say, and then there's, like, this awkward moment, and then the other will try to, like, come up with something to say in the pause, and it's always, like, silly, goofy, like, okay, that person was clearly just, like, trying to come up with
Yes.
literally anything. And it's usually just, like, repeating something that the other one just said.
Right, yeah,
Uh,
there's definitely moments where you're like, "Oh, wait, me? I was just having a good time listening."
I was just listen I didn't know there was gonna be a test.
Another question I liked was, "Have you ever heard a sound after recording that neither of you made?" With ghost
Ooh.
emojis.
Actually, yes, though. We remember that one episode we had where there was, like, a tapping on my end?
Yeah, yeah, there was mysterious tapping on Midge's mic, one time.
Or a rogue husband cough if my mic just picked that up. I'm pretty sure in that moment, it just picked that up. But no, I that's the one time I remember there being, like, a weird sound that wasn't from our mouths.
Yes, yeah, I feel like there were a couple of times in, like, the very early days where I was like, "What is that?" And I think it was, like, you, like, moving your water or
Oh, yeah,
something, just,
sure.
like, a very, very, like and
A
just, like, as
faint.
I'm listening to it, I'm like, "Wait, did I hear something?" And then I was like, "Oh, it's just, like, a cup or something moving around."
I will say, apparently, according to Andrew and Devin, in a recent episode, I did either said or something or laughed in a way that I sounded like Mickey Mouse. And I don't remember it slash
Alright.
like I listen back to every episode when it like
Yeah.
comes out and I didn't catch it, so that I'm curious to find what that was.
Maybe there's just a Mickey Ghost in one of their
Yeah,
phones.
so
Mm.
either it was me and I just don't even it didn't even register, or there was something other in the room with me. The spirit of
The
Walt
spirit of
Disney took
Mickey
over.
Mouse. Oh my gosh, love that. Um, we did get some questions about if we do all of the production and editing for the show and how many edits we make during an episode. Um, I do the editing, and as you can probably tell if you listen to it, it is not heavily edited.
No.
um, I basically just kind of try and clear up, like, if there are stray coughs or if we have one of those awkward pauses and it goes on like a really long time,
An
I'll try
uncomfortable
and cut it
period, yeah.
out. Or I did say I had gotten this question on my personal Instagram, and mentioned it and was kind of like, yeah, I don't edit a whole lot, and the one episode that is like most heavily edited is the quiz show episode
Yeah.
because there was just so much of us being like, oh, because like
Mhm.
obviously we're like, well, we're recording, so I can't just sit here in silence and think, but also no one wants to hear all of that humming. And someone did message me and was like, this makes me feel a lot better because I was like, wow, they have answers right away. And I was like, no, don't worry.
No. But yeah, for a little behind the scenes on this episode, Penny will have to edit out just moments ago, my internet failed.
Yep.
And there was a 2-minute pause of us going, huh, what?
What?
Huh?
What? What's
Huh?
that? What?
So yeah, unless there's something like that, what you're hearing is straight from these horses' mouths.
Yes, it's what you got. I use Audacity. I have just been recommended
She
to
has the
try.
audacity.
I have the Audacity. But I was recommended Reaper, which also sounds pretty
Ooh.
appropriate for our podcast. So I might be trying that out. I did open it up and was like, this is intimidating because my audio editing training is when I was in high school. I took a video editing course. Uh,
Yep.
that's my only experience
Yeah.
with editing anything.
After guesting on Patrick's podcast, which, if you have not listened, is the Big Seance podcast with Patrick Keller.
Ooh.
Um, I listened back to my episode from that and I was like, wow, we don't do anything. Like
No. We really
Pat-
don't.
Patrick is like an audio master and there's like soundscape and music
Oh
and
my
like
god. Right?
it's
Or like I
beautiful.
listen I so I obviously listen to podcasts and I'm like on Patreon for various podcasts, and when people talk about they're like, "Oh yeah, we talk for like 2 hours and then we edit it down into a 40-minute podcast." I'm like, "Mm-mm, that's never going to happen."
Couldn't be me. My
Couldn't
attention
be
span could
me.
never. No.
No, no. You get the raw unfiltered ghouls. I did. Okay, this is where I have a special behind the scenes thing that I thought would be fun, which is that I have some rejected episode titles to share. So I was telling Midge this, that I while I'm editing the podcast, I have a friend named Cindy. Hi, Cindy, who I will send ep title colon and then a potential quote, just so I have them all in like a chat log. So I just searched ep title in our like chat
Oh, there
history,
you
so I
go.
was able to pull a variety. So I do have some of our recent ones. Would you like to know some Tilly episode titles?
Yeah. I guess we should say, just in case anyone hasn't figured this out, the episode title is always a quote from the
Yes.
recording.
Yes.
And it is always a surprise to me.
Yes, it is a surprise to Midge. And
Yes.
so I guess I'll say, to preface this, as I pick something that is a quote from the episode. I usually try for it to be something that one of us said and not a quote from something else, although occasionally it is, if especially like if it cracks us up, especially.
I.e. stark mad and stark naked and
Yes,
almost
certainly
certainly
homosexual.
homosexual are two of
Yes.
those instances. Yes.
Yeah, but other than that, I try to make it something that one of us said. Obviously, it needs to be fairly short, and something that is just, entertaining. That'll make people be like, "What the hell is in this episode?" So the two, and generally because I'm sending them as I'm listening. Like when I hit one, I'll often just stop and be like, "That's the one."
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to see how deep into the episode I get before I grab one. And there are also episodes where I'll be like, like if, especially if it's like a very fact heavy episode of mine, I will say, where I just kind of like gave you facts a lot. Those are ones that are harder to name, because if we don't like talk to each other as much, it's harder to pick
Yeah.
out like something fun. But my two rejected Tilly titles were Overstimulation Station and Sweeping Shit Out to Sea,
Sweeping shit out to sea.
which was
Yeah.
very good. But and so this is something else that I think about. Our Practical Magic episode is titled
Sweep
Sweep
him
Him
out.
Out. So I was like,
Hmm.
that's a little close to Sweep Him
I
Out.
even had the thought while we recorded that episode when we talked about the first Master Mason, I almost said sweep him out as a
You
like
gotta sweep him out.
self-referential to our own podcast. And I was like, nah, I can't. It's too niche.
Yes. I my two that I was fond of from the Walpurgisnacht episode were Low Altitude Witches and
Oh, I
Big
don't even
Witch
remember
Convention.
saying Big Witch Convention. I don't remember low altitude witches.
It was when we were talking about the witches flat. We're like, oh, they light the bonfire so the witches
Oh,
will burn
yes.
themselves, and we're like, that's some pretty low altitude witches cruising over this bonfire.
Uh, that's
Um,
right.
I have a few others that some of these I don't remember what they're from. I've
Sure.
got 1950s PPE, which I think is from the Radium episode.
Probably. Yeah.
I've got So X-Files coded.
Which we haven't done an X-Files
No,
episode, so what
no.
is that from?
It's about something else. No,
It's got it's
I
probably
think that
a cryptid,
yeah, it was a cryptid because it was
probably
something
night
about like
crawlers
the
or something.
government. Yeah.
Oh,
Uh
it was the ba, ba,
was it
ba, ba,
the
ba.
Spadehead Man?
Yeah, the Flatbush. No, not
Flatbush.
Flatbush. That's a diner. Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah.
It's when we were talking about you brought up the government conspiracy of
Oh,
like that they were
yes.
yeah, yeah,
We've got Bodies in Front of My Salad, which is which is I can tell, I know what it's a reference to, but I
Yeah,
don't remember which episode it was
it's got
from.
that it sounds like seems like Body Farm, probably.
Maybe it could
Either
have been.
Body Farm or 24 Hour Seance Fest because of
Yes.
the little salads.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
why bodies?
But
Yeah.
I don't know. We've got goth breadcrumbs.
Oh, yep.
One one of my favorites, love that chicken leg house, which obviously is Baba Yaga, and I almost made that the title of the
I was
episode.
gonna say, is that not the episode
It
title?
is. I don't think it is. Is no, it is the episode title. Oh my
Okay, I was gonna
gosh,
say, if
it
it
was.
isn't, I'm going in and changing it right now.
Okay, see, this is almost talked myself out of it because I was worried that people wouldn't that it wouldn't be funny if you didn't hear it in the Popeyes
Love that
song in my head. Love that chicken leg house. But obviously I decided that it was funny either way, so I put it
Yes,
in there.
that's because I was
Um
gonna say that's one of my favorite episode titles, so I'm
good.
pretty sure.
Good job, me. Obviously I just went through here and was pulling things. Oh, I have Benedict Cumberbatch as my father.
What?
Which we talked about Benedict Cumberbatch in Crimson Peak, but I don't think that would have come up.
No,
So
I'm having vague memories of this from like last year or some point.
yeah,
Interesting.
I've
I love
got
when the episode title has nothing to do with the
yes,
actual,
yep.
which is maybe really annoying as a listener. I'm
Sorry,
sorry
guys.
it's impossible to find the episodes.
See, but I listen to podcasts where the episode title is The Thing, and I listen to podcasts where it's something wacky, and I like something wacky. So
I like something wacky.
sorry,
And
guys.
again, talk about something we never decided on.
Nope.
That it just happened. I think literally the first episode. No, it was the second episode. I think we released those both at the same
Yes,
time.
we recursed both of them.
And it was because of Wami on my Waluigi board that we were like,
Yes.
we have to make that the episode title.
Yep.
And then that just became the gold
Yeah,
standard.
it was it. It was it. Just a couple more. We've got Coffin Trapdoor. We've got Grinch World Tour.
Back to the Grinch episode.
Back to the Grinch. We've got Weird Teen Nightclub.
Oh.
And
Oh, is that is that Buffy?
I think
That
that's
has to be Buffy.
Yeah. And we finally we have Single Family Haunted Home.
Oh, good times.
Good stuff. Hope y'all enjoy some of those. If you like it, if you're like, hey, that rejected title should be merch because I love that quote, let us know. And
We've talked about this before. I still think we need to find a way to do Kurt shirts that are just the episode titles.
yeah, that would be good.
But like make them limited edition. Like you can get Love That Chicken Leg House for the next 3 weeks.
Yes. That chicken leg house. I'm so glad that I did make that. Oh, that was because I grabbed two. The other one was Scary Grandma was my other Baba Yaga title.
Oh,
Which
yeah,
was just
yeah,
kind of,
Chicken Leg
up
House.
front. And I was like, nah, we got to stick with the chicken leg house.
I thought about there for a second. I was like, Penny, are we about to go into Podbean and retroactively rename an episode?
I'm glad that you remember that was the actual title, because I was just sitting here being like, man, that was such a good one. Too bad. But I also had no idea. I didn't know what it actually was, because obviously I know I didn't pick Scary Grandma either. So who knows?
That would be a fun thing for a future like quiz episode.
Yes.
Would be for us to give each other the episode topic and see if we remember what the title of the episode is.
Yes. That would be extremely difficult.
Yes, but it would be fun.
It would be fun, maybe for our next anniversary.
Or vice versa,
Yeah.
Just a section on the quiz. It doesn't have
Yes.
to be the whole thing.
Semi-related to the idea, not to the question, just to what I said about an anniversary, was any plans for live YouTube episodes? So we have live streamed a couple of times. Have we only live streamed the once? Because we did the Victorian one we pre-recorded.
Oh, sure.
Well, we've done Instagram lives. I think we've only done live to YouTube the one time.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
But I thought that was really fun, and I
Yeah.
would definitely be up to do it again.
Yeah. Who knows? We got another anniversary coming up. Not too it's been
Yeah.
almost another year again, so
Yeah. If you guys like to see us live, let us know, and we'll see what we can do. Um, Other question: best podcasting garb. What do you wear when you podcast,
oh my
Midgery?
gosh, sweatpants. That's honestly been like the I don't want to say that's the best thing about this podcast, but uh what's really nice cuz we did talk early on about like, hey, you and I are both like internet faces.
Hmm.
People recognize us. We have a distinct style. Like, should we be recording these episodes with our face? And pretty early on, we were both like, no.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely fun to do occasionally, and I would be up to do it more often if that was
Hmm.
something people wanted to see. But like, it would not get done if we both had to look cute when it
Yeah.
happened. Like,
Yeah.
we usually record on Sunday mornings is our preferred time, but we bounce around obviously depending on ways and needs. That's not the words. That's ways and means. I don't even know. We're it as we've said on other episodes, this is a nighttime record, so we've got that after 5
Got that
energy.
weird 5 energy,
We have
yeah.
weird vibe. But yeah, I set my hair. I wash and set my hair on Sundays, so Sunday morning is the absolute worst that my hair has ever looked all week. Um, so it would just cause a full redo of how we put
Yeah.
together our schedule in order to be able
It
to film these things.
it's very much a roll out of bed in my jams and come sit at this
Yes.
computer situation.
Yeah, we're having
However,
cozy jammings.
yeah, if there were ever, like, maybe want of, like, a Patreon situation or something where we do, like,
Hmm.
a once monthly episode, like, it would be one of the episodes we already
Oh yeah,
record, but that
we
we actually
recorded
film it,
filmed. Yeah.
um, that might be something we would if you give us $1, we'll put on our face.
We'll put on the face. I don't get out of bed for less than $3 a month on the Patreon.
But no, yeah, we're both so like high femme presenting all the rest of the time. It's nice to
Yeah.
have a content space where we just get to schlub and talk to each other. It's a good
Agreed.
feeling.
And also are just, our recording spaces are set up for recording and not for the visuals. As I said, I'm up in it's a finished attic, but it's not like styled up here.
Yeah, I have a rack of all my clothes behind me you can check out.
There you go. That's a good vibe. I have one final question
Okay.
to share today, which is what's one thing you want to try with the podcast?
I still really want to do a live episode, as in an in-person episode.
Yeah, that would be so
That's
fun.
that's the big dream. I would love to have a ghouls night, like get together with our actual listeners in
Mhm.
person somewhere and do um I don't know, some kind of I don't even know what that would look like because we do have to like obviously research ahead of time. But something to that effect is something I really, really would love to do at some point.
Yeah, I would love to do that too. That would be a hoot. I feel like just in general, I'm always intrigued by the idea of mixing things up, and I'll just be like, Midge, I'm gonna give us trivia. Get
Yeah.
ready, and stuff like that. So I feel like there will probably be more format experimentations coming up
Hmm.
from me where I might be like, ooh, I want to do it this way. And I would love to do another trivia episode.
Oh, definitely. I would
Um,
too. And I mean, that's the nice thing about the way we've set up this podcast. It is kind of a playground for us. We can do what we
mhm.
want. There's no real formality or like
Yes.
a heavy structure to the way we do this. So, um, thank you guys for enjoying that and
Yeah.
liking just like our loose talking. um, but it does give us room to play and try new things, and that's really fun for us, especially when you get like, I mean, we've been making an episode a week for 3 years. It can, it can be a little monotonous at
Yep,
times
yep,
when
yep.
when you're doing the same format over and over. So it's fun to try different things.
For sure. Well, those were all the questions that I had collected. Do you have any other behind the scenes tidbits that you would like to deliver today, Midge?
Mm, not that I can think of. I think we covered all the good bits and pieces. I
We
think.
did. We dove pretty deep. It's a long one, so I hope you guys are ready for that. Well, if you're here, you were, so good job.
Great job. Thanks for
Great
listening.
job. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. We are the Ghouls of Ghouls Night In. I assume if you listen this far, you're probably a regular listener. So thank you so
Mhm.
much for listening. And if you are enjoying the show, it means a lot to us if you can leave us a review wherever you listen, or if you're not able to leave a review wherever it is, what app you use, you can always send one to us on Instagram. Our DMs are looking pretty empty right now, Midge.
I know. We're fresh out of hot
We're
reviews.
fresh out of hot reviews, so you guys should start mixing those up and put them in the oven for us because we would love to read them, and it always makes us smile.
I will say, in space of what we would normally read our review, two things. One, thank you all for continuing to buy Ghouls Night merch and supporting us in that way. It really does help us continue to make this podcast. So you could always check that out at midgemonster.com/shop. And the second thing I wanted to say is our friend that we read the review last week from, Ghoul Friend Next Door, who is an online friend of mine, Skylar, as well, also shared the podcast to her story yesterday, I believe, and that generated a lot of new people over here. So
Ooh,
that's really exciting. And if you guys have already done your due diligence and left us your ratings and reviews, it does always mean so much to us too when you share the podcast in your Instagram stories or even just tell a friend about it. That helps us reach new people in ways that we're tapping the same audience over and
yeah.
over again with our following. They know we have a podcast.
Yes.
But if you share us with a friend, that always helps get us to new people, and that makes our family bigger, which we love.
Yay, we do. All right. And if you want to be part of that family, you can follow us on Instagram, see what we're up to at Ghouls Night In Pod. And if you are looking for me, you can find me at Penny Snark.
And you can find me all over the web at Midge Munster.
And until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.